He walks away, the sun goes down, he...
Right, well, that definitely sounds like the analog, does it? Hello, everyone. So, Pulsar have released a stereo 1176 in the form of the 1178, which is modelling the urei 1178. So, what makes this Pulsar plugin so versatile? So, first off, it's got its own sidechain EQ. It's got 4 bands. You can high pass, low pass, you can compress certain frequencies, you can choose not to compress certain frequencies. It's a very cool feature. Then you've got look behind, okay, which is going to give you more transients, and then you've got look ahead, which is going to give you less transients. And then finally, you've got 4 different stages of saturation, which is pretty cool as well. We've got access analog 1176, so we're going to test it out against the hardware, and we've also got a very special little versatile, there are other versatile FET plugins on the market in the forms of Tone Empire Goliath. So first, lead vocal, fast attack, fast release. And I am using the sidechain EQ. I'm using the sidechain EQ to take out a few peaks that I noticed in the spectral analyzer. So I'm just dipping those out a little bit more to level out the vocal, and I've got it in the look ahead mode as well. So what I want to do in the first example is I want to show you how smooth you can get an 1176 to sound. So look ahead mode, so just remember the look ahead is going to look ahead of the source, okay? So even fast transients aren't going to get through. It's really going to clamp down on those transients and give you a more overall smoother, leveled out vocal. So let's hear what that sounds like against the hardware 1176 coming from Access Analog. I'll leave a link down below so you guys can check that out. So first off, lead vocal, let's do it.
He walks away, the sun goes down, 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 he walks away, the sun goes down.
Okay, so as you can hear there, in the look ahead mode, you're really losing that kind of low end against the transients, okay? So, but still very, very smooth compression, okay? It's basically taking 1176, the color of an 1176, and making that vocal even more smoother, which is very, very cool. So what about if you want to sound more like the analog? It has way more transients and you can hear it in that low end, especially at the start of the vocal. So how about we move across to look behind? So look behind is making the compression a little bit later, so it's allowing more transients to come in. Now, this is very, very important if you want to get the sound of the analog 1176. Okay, now remember, an 1178 is slightly different. It's still basically 2 1176s, but it's still its own unit, so there might still be slight differences, okay? So we're using the look behind mode, and in the sidechain EQ, what I've done is I've actually, because I've got the look behind mode in, when I use the high pass filter, what I'm actually doing is I'm bringing more of those lows in. So the lows that I was missing in the look ahead, I'm actually going to get back in the look behind. And what I'm hoping is that you are going to hear a result that's a lot closer to the analog.
He walks away, the sun goes down, 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 he walks away, the sun goes down.
Right, well, that definitely sounds like the analog, does it? My God, how close does that sound? And again, I've adapted it a little bit more with, again, using the sidechain options, because again, I can see the peaks in the spectral analyzer. That's what's great about this plugin. That's what makes it so versatile, is that you can actually bring down the peaks even more. You can level it out even more. But that low end really came back with that high pass filter in the look behind mode, okay? So there we go. It sounds very, 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 very similar to an 1176. Now, very, very quickly, in both examples, I actually did use the clip mode. Now, if you do want to get a little bit more closer to the analog, I do suggest you use the clip mode, okay? Now, what the clip mode, just a little bit, not too much. What it does is it clips the signal a little bit, and for me, it kind of brings it, adds a little bit more depth, and it comes out at you a little bit more, adds a little bit more character as well. In my opinion, I wouldn't have got as kind of upfront as I managed to did without using the clipper. So not a lot, but that is quite important. Now, what if I was to tell you that there is another versatile FET compressor in the form of the Tone Empire Goliath? Now, what the Goliath does, it's basically taking the idea of a FET compressor and adding a pair of balls to it, okay? It's got four, in the same way, it's got four different saturation models, but they are, in my opinion, you'll hear in the bass, the way more analog. And also they are using convolution, so they've actually sampled the gear as well, which is really cool. It's not only Acoustica that do convolution sampling. So they have sampled a Neve 1081, and also in the second mode, which I think is the tube, they've modelled the Thermonic Culture Solo Vulture. I'm pretty sure I've got that right. Very cool. And you've got a tape emulation and a vinyl emulation. The tape is from a certain tape machine that they've sampled, and the vinyl, I think, is a Neumann unit, I think. So very, very cool analog stages of saturation. And you've also got an EQ section as well. You've got lows, mids, and highs. The lows is like a low shelf at 65 Hertz. The mid is a 1.5K boost, and then the highs is a 15K shelf, if I'm right. But again, just use them sparingly, okay? And of course, obviously, it's got a FET compressor based off an 1176. So I'm using the 1081 mode, which is the alloy. I'm just cranking that drive just a little bit because it can get a little bit hairy and the sibilance can come out a little bit too much. So again, same compression, about 3 to 5 dB of compression, a little bit of hair on alloy mode, a little bit, and now I've got the lows absolutely cranked. You don't hear it that much. Let's just hear how that sounds in comparison.
He walks away, the sun goes down. He walks away, the sun goes down. He walks away, the sun goes down. He walks away, the sun goes down.
So to sum up there, the 1178 from Pulsar is very smooth, and it's compared to the Goliath, it's very clean, very smooth. The Goliath is basically taking that sound of the Pulsar and adding an absolute pair of balls to it. It comes out a lot more. It's almost like taking 1176 and adding more colour to it and making it a little bit more saturated and a little bit more hairy. I think it kind of comes out at you a little bit more depth, but the Pulsar is definitely smoother. The compressor is not as good. I have to tell you right now, the compressor in the Goliath is not as good as the Pulsar. The Pulsar does have way better compression, but the added elements of the EQ and also the analog variants of the saturation modes in the Goliath adds a different factor. So two great options there for you, really two great options for you. I've not delved into the saturation really. I've spoke about the clip, which is very important. Now, what I am going to say is that, again, it's like, it wouldn't be a Paul Third video unless you had something negative to say somehow. So the only negative I would say about the Pulsar is the saturation mode. In little doses, the clipper could be really, really useful, very useful indeed. But in terms of really driving the unit, so if you've kind of got this compressor and you're thinking, no, what, it's got all these saturation kind of modes, that'd be really good to give a little bit of hair to an 1176. Instead of using a saturation plugin, you can use the two of them together. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the differences, okay, between the Goliath and the different modes of the Goliath compared to the different modes of the Pulsar. I'll say something quickly afterwards, but okay, this is the differences in the sound. it's cool. It's like the Pulsar's it's all right. The saturation's all right. It's pretty cool, but it completely loses the definition on low end. So especially on a bass, it just makes the low end of the bass just sound really muffled, and it's lost. I don't think they put as much time and effort into the saturation modes as they did the compression. To me, the Goliath sounds a little bit like an HG2 black box, but with more balls and an EQ. It's like, my God, like, why have I never heard of this thing? So yeah, in terms of the saturation, I do feel that you can get an overall better sound, bass sound, using the Goliath. The effect compressor's pretty good, but when you use it with the saturation mode and the EQ, it is just unbelievably analog and vibey and just great. It sounds amazing. So we've touched on the saturation. That's my only negative point. Okay, Pulsar, Francois, you can you can calm down a little bit. I don't want to fall out with you again like what I did in the Pulsar Mew video. We're all friends. We're all friends now, okay? So let's lastly have a look at drums. I'm actually going to show you the stereo capacities of it, because you've got to remember, you can load a mono instance of it, which I've done in the first two examples, but you can load a stereo instance of it as well, okay? So when I did the Access analog hardware, I noticed that one side, I think it was the right side, was a little bit louder than the other. So the great thing with having a stereo compressor is you can change the outputs and compress the left and right differently. So what I did was, when I finished and I had it hitting like 10 dB, like really, really hitting it hard, I was actually able to get the levels quite consistent. And I was able to do that on the 1178, which again is a very, very cool feature, which a lot of plugins don't give you. So what I've done on this is I've utilised the look behind again, because again, transients, we're using drums. Now I want to show you something really cool. I don't want to sound like the hardware in this test. I want to kind of see if I could go a step further than the analog and give you more transients, a little bit more hit in the kick. So I'm using the clipper again. Again, I'm hitting this really hard, okay? It's quite slowish attack. I think it's quite a slow attack, like maybe like a mid-release. Again, about 10 dB compression. I think it's like 8:1 ratio. So yeah, let's hear what this thing does on drums using the look behind and also a bit of the clipper as well. This one's a little bit interesting. So do you hear what that look behind does? It's very, very, very cool. And again, I'm utilising that sidechain again and that high pass filter, okay, bringing in some lows. The clipper just really brings in that analog hit, and I really, really, really like it. I think what's really great is, see when you use it in parallel, again, you've got a mix knob as well, which the Goliath doesn't have. The mix knob's great in the Pulsar because you can really hit it like that. And honestly, see if you try it at like 50%, it sounds really, really, really nice. It actually sounds better to me than like my parallel distressor that I use. I normally use a distressor on drums in parallel. To me, this is a really great plugin. If you use it in the clip, the look behind, and you get that transients, you get that really nice hit of the kick, and overall you're just getting more transients. It sounds really nice, really cool, really vibey and compressed. Pulsar, great job. Is it the most versatile FET compressor plugin on the market? As a compressor, I would agree. Francois, I would agree. As a versatile FET compressor plugin, I'd say the Goliath, in my opinion, is the most versatile. As a compressor, it's not as versatile. But in terms of the variety of tonal options that you can get and take the FET compressor one step forward in analog vibe and stuff like that, the Goliath is really, really versatile. So they're versatile in their own ways. They're both great plugins. I really like the ability that the Pulsar has to give you a really smooth 1176, but also sound very close to the hardware as well. I actually prefer it over the Slate 1176s, which are my favourite. So there you go. It's actually probably, yes, my favourite 1176. So guys, thank you very much for sticking around. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you again